Lightning strikes friends and Moscow is gripped by panic. Thousands injured.
A bridge, tankers are on fire. Something's burning here too. There's something burning in the river as well. This is just fucking insane.
Turn it off in the whole house. How do I do that? I'll turn it off. What about the electricity? The AFU are striking Russia's nuclear triad. A factory that produces components for ballistic nuclear missiles has been attacked. Yars.
Holy shit, what a blast. Damn. We're screwed. Everything's going to burn now. More than 10 hits.
Fires in Penza, explosions at the radio factory, logistical collapse. Another one, I think, yeah, fuck. Explosion on the railway, the station has collapsed.
Yeah.
Aviation is paralyzed. Aeroflot is down again. Train convoys are burning. New explosions in the Moscow region and Rostov region. Stations have been attacked. Drones are striking all over Russia. Railways and stations are on fire. IT systems have been destroyed. Hackers have taken down Aeroflot and even government services, hospitals and pharmacies. Everything is down. $50 million in losses just in the past 24 hours. And now Trump, he stated that Russia's war against Ukraine must end. In Washington, they are seriously discussing targeted strikes, Tomahawks and JASSMs on Russia's military and nuclear facilities. This could become the most serious escalation of the war. If Ukraine's strikes have already paralyzed logistics, then America could deliver a truly precise surgical strike. And all of this is happening against the backdrop of strikes on the nuclear triad. And now Trump is threatening Putin. The White House is discussing cruise missile strikes on Russia's nuclear infrastructure. Right now, we will talk about this with the well-known political scientist and political technologist, Mikhail Shettleman, who predicted the logistics war a month ago.
Hello, Dasha. Yes, you certainly made me happy.
Mikhail, I would like you to cheer us up because, first of all, over the past few weeks, we have been actively causing railway and aviation collapses in Russia. How do you assess these strikes on Russian territory?
The railway attacks are really something new. We hadn't really stopped them before. That's true, especially with the help of drones. So these are some brilliant successes. The hacker attack on Aeroflot probably didn't turn out as loud as we had hoped. The initial results that were reported to us were never presented as the actions of our special operations forces. Some Belarusian hackers, probably friendly to us, but it seems the initial effect faded quickly. And now I'm reading statistics about how Aeroflot is launching its flights. And within a day, more than 90% of their flights were already departing on schedule by the second day. So in fact, we managed to disrupt Aeroflot's operations for just one day. Plus, there were some minor lingering issues afterwards. And maybe there were some losses because their system was broken. But honestly, it's not that impressive. But overall, you see, this is part of a bigger plan, undoubtedly. We're not saying it was us, but it's part of the overall plan, part of this operation. I don't know what it's called. Surely, by the way, the Security Service of Ukraine has a name for this kind of operation, like Web. But so far, they haven't told us what it is. An operation to halt air traffic in the cities of Moscow and St. Petersburg. Because it's not just a hacker attack, we're also using drone strikes. For example, I was watching The Weekend 2 weeks ago. 10 times over those 2 days, Aeroflot was stopped and Sheremetyevo Airport was closed. And the other airports in the Moscow hub were closed up to 8 times as well. And Pulkovo, I don't know exactly how many times, but several as well. They actually published a schedule now showing when the airport was closed. And why is this critically important? Because in Russia, by the way, yes, I spoke with them. I asked, what's going on with you guys? Everything here is routed through Moscow. So if we only close Moscow, people can't fly from Tyumen to Krasnodar because there are no direct flights. Tyumen to Krasnodar means Tyumen to Moscow, then Moscow to Krasnodar. That's why I think that those 50 million we cost Aeroflot is good, but it's nothing compared to the losses we caused by shutting down Moscow airports. I think we're talking about hundreds of millions of dollars in losses per week. Because people are delayed. Yes, maybe for a day, maybe for a day and a half. But there was a person flying somewhere. He was flying to do something for work. People fly between cities for work there. We're disrupting their military logistics, I'm sure of it. Military specialists don't arrive on time. soldiers and officers don't return from leave on time. So I think the effect is enormous. Of course, and this is just the beginning, because I'm sure we'll keep ramping things up. Honestly, there are no words. It's awesome. And now, by the way, yes, about what you mentioned regarding the military factory, that electronics plant in Penza, while we're talking, I don't know the final results. None of us do. But the panic there is absolutely unbelievable. I read the responses from the governor of the Penza region. He says, the mayor, of course, they're all saying, we shot everything down. But we shot everything down. So all the factories have stopped, the city isn't functioning, all the roads are blocked, and so on and so on. So it seems that we managed to hit that Penza factory very successfully. And I think more details will come to light. So from this particular point of view, we are truly and significantly stirring things up in the Russian rear areas. But of course, if we manage to acquire and deploy those specific missiles, I genuinely can't quite recall their precise name at this moment. But they are the advanced air-to-ground ones that possess the remarkable capability to strike targets many hundreds of kilometers away. That crucial development will undoubtedly and profoundly change the entire balance of power on the very front lines. And separately, what we're expecting from Trump is not just weapons, but also all his other measures.
Mikhail, I'd also like to have a detailed conversation with you about what Trump might do. But first, there are some very interesting news coming out of Mordor. Governors of several regions, almost 5 by my count, are saying that Russians need to get used to the absence of internet and communications. They're saying, yeah, we're going to shut off the internet. We're already doing it. So just bear with it. It's nothing serious. So what's actually going on? Previously, there were reports, even from Russian military bloggers, the so-called Zidmil bloggers, that the FSB was massively jamming communications. And now at the regional level, governors are coming out and saying, you'll be without internet, you'll be without communications. It turns out that Russia is turning into a concentration camp where everything is being shut down, communications are being jammed, and the internet doesn't work.
Yes, and what's interesting is this. This can't be explained solely by the actions of our drones. Some people think, well, it's to counter our drones, right? Mobile communications are being shut down because supposedly they don't know how to deal with GPS or something like that. No, that's not it at all. Because Krasnodar Krasnoyarsk Krai, Krasnoyarsk is way out in Siberia, far beyond the Urals. Our drones have never reached Krasnoyarsk Krai at all. And it's a huge territory in terms of area. I don't even know. It's probably bigger than Ukraine and Krasnoyarsk Krai. So in Krasnoyarsk Krai, there hasn't been mobile internet for weeks now. Well, for the past 2 weeks, there's been no mobile internet in Krasnoyarsk Krai. And this definitely isn't about drones. Absolutely not. Next, I look at Tyumen. That's not about drones either. You see? And what's really surprising is that they started shutting it off, not in the regions bordering us, but somewhere far away to begin with. And then it spread to the Moscow region, here and there. And this, of course, is not about the war, but about internal repression, about what you mentioned, about a concentration camp. So I think that Putin is preparing. He's afraid of some kind of, well, let's put it this way. It's not about popular protest. That's not what this is about, of course. Basically, he wants to completely close off the country now to shut down any flow, including any information. Why? He has started repressions against his own people. He started them a year ago, gradually. At first, this wheel was turning slowly when they arrested those deputies of Shoigu. And it seemed, well, okay, they arrested them. So what are they going to do with this Timur Ivanov? They'll take $1 billion from him, but it's not his last one. And it seemed that at first the whole Russian elite decided, well, Timur really got greedy. He stole a lot there. Suddenly he gets 13 years in prison. Then some general, that's Popov, who actually fought against us. A murderer, right? He gets either 5 or 6 years in prison. Then these arrests start happening more and more. And now there isn't a single day when they don't arrest someone from the regional government. For example, the deputy head of some region is arrested, or the deputy governor of another. At the same time, businessmen are being arrested, and even the most pro-Putin people, like outright propagandists. There's this guy, Kekman, I think he's the director of the Moscow Art Academic Theater, the MHAT. Today he was accused of stealing half $500 million, I think, or something like that. Some absolutely insane amount of budget money. We don't even understand what he could have stolen from the theater, like what, curtains or something. But still, these are people who seemed absolutely untouchable. I mean, they are total Putin propagandists, 1,000%. And now, sitting here in Kiev, I can see this expression. I thought maybe it's just my wishful thinking here in Kiev, seeing what I want to see. But then I listened to some Russian opposition speakers. There's this guy, Maxim Kaz, for example, and he says exactly the same thing, that now, when they've started going after them, when these Putin loyalists are actually risking their own freedom, they might just turn on him. So apparently all this blocking of mobile internet is heading in that direction. And look at the consequences already. First of all, one of the governors said, stock up on cash. Because without mobile internet, you won't be able to pay with your phone anymore. That's it, goodbye. Stock up on cash. Secondly, now, it's become forbidden for them. Well, how? So, if you pay a street vendor for vegetables by transferring money to his card, you could end up in jail if it turns out he transferred money to the Anti-Corruption Foundation. That means you transferred money to him and he sent it to the Anti-Corruption Foundation. You'll be imprisoned. That's why cash is back in use everywhere now, too. And an interesting piece of news just came from Russia yesterday. There's now a queue for fixed line internet. In other words, it's impossible to order internet for your home because mobile internet is being phased out. And because of that, there's now a wait list for fixed line internet. So most likely, yes. Given the ban, yes, in fact, they want to leave them with only the government services website. So you can log in, and here's a button for funerals, here's a button to get married, here's a button to mobilize into the army. That's it. There probably won't be any other buttons.
Here's an interesting point. We recently attacked a factory that produces components for ballistic nuclear missiles of the nuclear arsenal. Undoubtedly, this is part of Russia's nuclear triad. Actually, Lindsey Graham mentions Russia's nuclear triad. Comparing Iran and Russia, we attacked strategic military airfields where strategic bombers capable of carrying nuclear warheads are stationed. We also attacked the Northern Fleet. Now we have attacked a factory that produces components for Yars missiles. How do you feel about the fact that a special operation by Ukrainian intelligence services could indirectly affect Russia's nuclear triad, and that this could also be an element of threat, including Trump, who is also involved in coordinating this?
First of all, a missile, as they say, is always a missile. It can be nuclear, but it can also be non-nuclear. Here's an example for you. This Oreshnik they used to scare us. This is a classic nuclear missile, a missile capable of carrying a nuclear warhead. They simply replaced it with a conventional one and fired it at us. Well, they tried to replace it. It didn't work out very well for them, but at least they tried. So whenever we destroy any missiles, we are fully within our rights to do so. It's all logical. Is Trump helping us with this? I mean, did he order it? I somehow doubt it because I saw how Trump got a little scared. He showed a bit of fear regarding our web operation. Like, how could you touch them? Peaceful planes, just parked there, not bothering anyone. Military planes that kill us every day, or at least try to. What's up with that? And he understands that this is kind of a game of escalation when we strike at the nuclear triad. But we need this game of escalation. It definitely benefits us. We definitely don't need the Russians to be calm. The more decisively we carry out our operations, the more allies we gain around the world, by the way, who admire us. Here's a simple example. Well, the web, of course, has already become a classic. Navy Day of the Russian Federation. Our drones cancel the parade in honor of Navy Day, and the whole world sees it. That is Putin, in his own homeland, you could say, in the city of St. Petersburg. Doesn't even dare to simply board a warship and sail along the Neva. And he doesn't dare to bring his warships out to the mouth of the Neva. On the Neva, not in the Black Sea. This speaks of weakness. And this helps Trump. That is, at first Trump might get scared. Like, oh no, I'm up against weapons. And that's fine. But then, in the evening, he'll sit down and think, so what? Well, in principle, we did the right thing. They did the right thing with Russia. Now it will be easier for me to negotiate with them. Especially since we have, Ukraine is the main ally in Russia. His name is Dmitry Anatolyevich Medvedev, a person who truly annoys Trump. And what's surprising is that he doesn't stop doing it, just with sheer persistence. Already, when Trump responds to Medvedev for the second time, today, Trump responded to Medvedev for the second time. And I think there will be a third time. And this really got under his skin. And he understands that it's Putin who sends Medvedev to speak on his behalf instead of Putin himself. Putin stays silent, but Medvedev speaks and writes. That is precisely why I firmly believe that all of this, taken together, by the way, actually propelled Donald Trump onto the particular course he is currently pursuing, an unequivocally anti-Russian one. It's our strikes as well. We showed both strength and the Russians' weakness, and this infuriating behavior from Medvedev and Putin, plus maybe some other factors like Milan too.
Friends, please like this video and write a few kind words in the comments to support the Ukrainian armed forces. and share your thoughts on the situation overall. Also, let us know where you're watching from, your location. Subscribe to Mikhail Shitelman's YouTube channel and also subscribe to my YouTube channel, Dasha Shasliva. Mikhail, as a political strategist, I'm really interested in your opinion. You know, right now I have the impression that Putin is as calm as a boa constrictor. He launches missile strikes, bombards, and terrorizes Ukraine, destroys Ukraine, and he just doesn't care about anything. He's quiet, calm, his actions speak for him. In other words, he's a terrifying killer dictator. Trump, on the other hand, is fidgety, talks a lot, does nothing, and just keeps talking. It gives the impression that Trump is currently in a weaker position than Putin. Because Putin is simply very powerful. He's destroying Ukraine and no one can stand up to him. And no one today can make him stop. And Trump, to put it mildly, looks extremely fidgety, including when he even allows himself to respond to Medvedev, who, in the context of geopolitics, is a nobody. Yet Trump still bothers to reply to him. Why? If I were in his place, I would just bomb Russia and that's it, silently, without a word. How do you assess the situation?
I completely agree with the first part of your points regarding the fact that Trump put himself in a disadvantageous position. When he came to power, he kept repeating like a mantra that he had a good relationship with Putin, that he could come to an agreement with Putin. Putin kept saying, "We got along well. I know how to manage this." He believed that he knew how to deal with Putin, that others didn't, and that he would succeed. And he lived under this delusion for several months of his presidency. That's why he called Putin many times, expecting certain responses. And he sent his guy Vitkov to him, and he sent to, that's why there was Kirill Dmitriev, all of that, because, we're going to do business together. I know Putin's trauma. He's a hardened, corrupt official. He wants money. I'm going to help him make money now. I'll make money myself too. Not personally, but America will. America will make money off Russia. Everything will be fine. Why are they messing around with nonsense? What war? And the first time, I think he couldn't believe his ears when he heard something. He thought, well, that's just how Putin is right now. Now, Putin will come and say, that's it, I'm stopping the war. Because we've made a deal about the Arctic, rare earth metals, and so on. But then, after the first, second, and third time, he realized that no, things aren't like that at all. And Trump, by the way, honestly said that this is not the Putin I knew. Putin has lost his mind. All of this happened too, yes, this kind of turnaround. But during this time, over these months, Trump has shown himself in an unflattering light. And to the whole world, in the sense that he's making mistakes, that he got played, that he's being led by the nose. That's how it looks. Fortunately for us, he realizes this. He understands. He has talked about it. He even once said directly somewhere, I understand that it looks like, I don't remember exactly how he put it now. And the whole press writes about it, that he understands this, the pro-Trump press. I'm not even talking about CNN right now. He needs to fix this. But how can he fix it? To punish Putin as harshly as possible, so to speak, in various ways? Or, well, I won't repeat it in front of you. To quote Graham, I can't quote the senator in front of ladies, sorry. So he explained exactly what Trump would do to Putin and in what form. By the way, this greatly outraged some representatives of the authorities in Russia who said you can't do that to the president of Russia. And now, in fact, he is carrying out exactly these actions. So yes, for now, he is definitely losing to Putin in terms of image. But as for Medvedev, here I have to disagree with you. We're just used to it. We know what Medvedev is like here. Thanks to Navalny and others, the nickname The Pathetic One and the hashtag stuck to him at some point, and so on. And all of this about Medvedev is just funny to us. But from the very beginning of the war, when Medvedev took this hawkish stance and started writing his furious posts on Telegram, insulting everyone, and, by the way, threatening civilized countries like the UK, Poland, and Germany with nuclear attacks, that's when I said we need to make use of this. We just need to collect all of this into a folder. Because to us, he's just a clown. But for Western politicians, they look at the official hierarchy. They don't care whether someone is a clown or not. What position does he hold? He's the deputy chairman of the Security Council. Not the secretary, but the chairman of the Security Council. The chairman is Putin, and the deputy is Medvedev. Second, he's the deputy chairman of the Armaments Commission. Again, Putin is the chairman, Medvedev is the deputy. So when it comes to the war, he's the second most important person after Putin. In the security system, he's the second person after Putin. And when all of this started to be collected into a folder at the White House, the first to notice it was Biden, who said, "Look at Medvedev." Putin's right-hand man, his closest aide, the president threatened this, threatened that, and so on. And now all of this has been reported, and it has even reached Trump. especially since Medvedev has the recklessness to write all of this in English. Previously, all of this was in Russian on Telegram, but now it's all in English on Twitter. And Elon Musk shares it. Elon Musk also posts his own opinions about it. Well, short ones. Admiration, outrage, and so on. And Trump sees all of this. So right before the eyes, in front of Elon Musk, a man who is now Trump's enemy, Trump is being humiliated by some Medvedev, the second person in the Russian hierarchy. So the fact that Trump engages in a debate with him is not a loss for him, because this isn't just some nobody. This is the second most powerful person in Russia. It's beneficial for us, and for him it makes sense to go after Medvedev. Let him think that Medvedev is actually Putin. What difference does it make? It seems to me that gradually, in his mind, all of this is merging into a single image of the Russian leader. So if Medvedev didn't exist, I think we would have had to invent him. But of course, speaking as a political strategist, I think everyone around him has already told him this, so I won't be saying anything new to Trump's campaign team. Right now, he needs to deliver a few really heavy blows to Russia in order to win back his ratings in this regard. There have just been some fresh poll numbers, and yes, his ratings are down, as you know. According to those who have analyzed the situation in detail, this drop is specifically linked to his stance on Ukraine. In other words, voters are dissatisfied that he is losing to Putin in Ukraine. It's not for nothing that his ratings are going down. And now he needs to deliver these few blows. He started to do that, as you can see. He didn't just say something about the 8th, for example. He imposed 25% tariffs against the Indians. And the Indians complied with him. There was already news today that the Indian state-owned enterprises, which refine 60% of the oil in India, haven't bought Russian oil for a week now. Instead, they've switched to Arab oil. And last night, he imposed 50% tariffs against Brazil, a 50% additional tariff. And he explained that this tariff is not for economic reasons. In other words, this tariff isn't about a tariff war because you're supplying us with too much like he did with the Europeans. No, this is political. It's because Brazil is taking steps that are dangerous for the security of the United States of America. They should stop doing that. This refers, among other things, to two issues. One is the fight against the former President Bolsonaro, who is his friend, and the other is Brazilians buying Russian oil. And I think the Brazilians will also follow Trump's path. And then only China and Russia will remain. He meant the tariffs against the Chinese. In other words, what he did against India has already worked. This is simply real, tangible money lost for Russia. There was an interesting article in the Kommersant newspaper, a Russian publication, so this is Russians writing about themselves, saying that this 18th European sanctions package, which lowers the maximum price for selling Russian oil to $46.60 instead of $60, will cost the Russian budget $40 billion a year, a minus of $40 billion a year. Just for comparison, first of all, the entire Russian budget is about 350 billion, roughly. I'm not sure. It depends on the ruble exchange rate, of course. And the military budget is about 140 to 150 billion. So that's a quarter of Russia's military budget lost. And that's just while we're still without Trump. We haven't even gotten to Trump yet. Next, let's take India, which apparently they managed to come to an agreement with. So what's going to happen now? If right now India says, the Prime Minister of India comes out and says, we understand everything, Comrade Trump. We officially refuse to purchase any Russian oil. Trump, pleased, he'll come out and sign an order lifting the additional tariff on India, but wag his finger. God forbid you buy even a single barrel, and the tariff will be reinstated. This would mean Russia losing a quarter of its entire oil market. In other words, over the past 2.5 years, India has been buying a quarter of all Russian oil. Only China buys more from Russia than India does. China buys a third, India buys a quarter. Next comes Turkey, I think, Brazil, and the European Union. That's all. That pretty much completes the list of buyers. Trump has already made a deal with the European Union. This agreement between the EU and the US stipulates that the European Union will buy American oil instead of Russian oil. He made that happen. He'll probably make a deal with India too. As for Brazil, I don't know. But how long can Brazil hold out with tariffs of 100%, 50%? Maybe it won't want to, because for Brazil, you see, it makes no sense for them to stick their necks out for the Russians. So there's really no reason to subject themselves to any losses for the sake of Russia. They have Venezuela nearby, and there's Nigeria too. If you look across the Atlantic Ocean, Nigeria is right there. Buy as much as you want. And if even the Indians have decided to buy oil from Nigeria, then for Brazil, as they say, it's practically a gift from above. China is a different story, because China, which currently buys a third of Russian oil, doesn't have many options. It's not like China can just start buying elsewhere tomorrow. If you look at the map, there's northern China, and above it are Mongolia and Russia. And in northern China, there are a ton of people, literally hundreds of millions. They need oil and gas. There's no other way. That's why this measure called "I'm imposing tariffs against China" would be the last resort, the very last step. First, he will impose tariffs and sanctions against Russia, and only then against the Chinese. And secondly, I think it won't really be about tariffs, but rather negotiations. In other words, he will try to persuade the Chinese to somehow influence Russia, so China will be told, or has already been told, what's what. There were negotiations in Stockholm this week, and the following was said. I wasn't there, but from a political strategist's perspective, you start to understand what's going on. The following was said to them. We actually, guys, dear Chinese friends, we understand that you can't refuse Russian oil because you don't need to. Then stop Putin. Stop the war and buy the oil. We'll be satisfied if you stop the war and then buy the oil. But as long as the war is ongoing, we can't allow that. That's what the bargaining is about. But he sees that putting direct pressure on Putin doesn't work, but it might work through Xi. I think that will be his approach. The method of pressure is to apply it through China. Basically, that's what Trump will be doing. Although there are two greats, Trump and Xi, and the two countries, one way or another, are dividing spheres of influence, spheres of interest, and so on, while Russia is undoubtedly a vassal of China there and is not seen any other way. That's why he doesn't need Putin at this meeting. Who is he? To serve the spoons? They'll go around him, they'll find other lackeys. No. By the way, he said directly that he's not seeking out a venue where he would meet with Xi. He's ready to meet with him just like that. Let him come to America, then I'll meet with him. So he needs a one-on-one meeting, but it really has to be prepared. I mean, he won't just meet for no reason. He will meet only in a situation where these delegations in Sweden, in Switzerland, which are constantly holding negotiations, have already agreed on the general framework. Basically, the division of the world, essentially the division of the world. What does the division of the world consist of, and where is the contradiction if we take the Russian question? The Chinese say, Russia is ours, simply ours. We don't need Crimea, we don't need Zaporizhzhia, we need Russia. Just give us Russia and don't touch it. The Russian Arctic is ours, all those resources are ours. And we will set the regime, and we will appoint the Prime Minister of Russia and the next president, not you, Americans. And America says, let's divide Russia. So we partially influence, you buy, we buy. This is the main conflict with the Chinese regarding the Russian question. Of course, they have conflicts over other issues as well, some Asian matters, so to speak, or something else. But when it comes to Russia, this is the contradiction, and it hasn't been resolved yet. But the Chinese have stated this directly. They started saying it openly as soon as Trump became president at that security conference in Munich. And then the foreign minister, yes, I think it was China represented there, I can't quite remember the exact title of the position. He said that we cannot give up Russian resources, they are ours, and Russian ports are ours, everything is ours, we will not give them up. So, to bring all this closer together, even Ursula von der Leyen said, you want to sign an agreement with us, Chinese? It can't be that you supply weapons to the Russians and at the same time sign an agreement with us. Yes, we'll sign with you if you stop supporting Russia. So, right now, extremely complicated things are happening around this, I'm sure, in Trump's life. And in Ursula von der Leyen's life as well, negotiations with the Chinese. Will they be able to do it? The war will stop. That's roughly how you could put it.
Mikhail, to wrap up our conversation today, what's your forecast? What's going to happen now?
For some reason, unfortunately for myself, I still can't completely write Putin off the board yet. That is, it seems to me that Putin has to do something. Just like last time, he managed to wriggle out of it when all of Europe had already cornered him. On May 12th, he was being demanded to stop the fire, to cease fire. He then came out with a nighttime address. It was the night of May 10th to 11th. And he said, we are scheduling negotiations in Istanbul for May 14th. And in fact, that postponed his end for almost 3 months now. And he dragged it out for those 3 months. The negotiations were completely empty and meaningless. But to make sure it was a sham so that the entire West would be convinced, and Trump would be convinced too, and the EU, everyone. It took 3 months. Now he might do something similar, meaning he will try to buy time. The question is, what other moves does he have left? Well, for example, I came up with one myself. I mean, I don't know. I don't think he'll do exactly this word for word, but just as a model. He comes out and says, well, all right, let's do it. Peace, a ceasefire. I'm ready to meet with Zelensky in Minsk for this. So he shows up. What are we going to do? That's the question. So I think that something like this, I don't know, maybe in this way, or he'll announce a 10-day ceasefire or something else. He'll do it. But at the same time, I think this won't stop Trump anymore. That is, unlike the previous attempt, Trump won't say, well, then I'll wait too. He'll say, well, it's good that you met. That's good. I'm imposing tariffs. I'm imposing sanctions. And you go ahead and meet. And let's negotiate.
The well-known political scientist and strategist Mikhail Shatriman. Mikhail, thank you. I hope to see you again. All the best.
Thank you, Dasha. Goodbye.